In 2003, WYES was allowed into Dr. Morgus's lab for the production of a documentary called New Orleans TV, The Golden Age. For that program, Dr. Morgus agreed to this rare interview.
Oh, yes. The station was supposed to send up some reporters here to interview me for this documentary. But I think they were fear of coming up here and getting into one of my experiments. But however, they did send a fax through my assistant Eric here with a few questions. Let's see. How did you come to select New Orleans as your research center? Oh, I didn't select it. It was selected by the superiors of the higher order. You see, you have to look at a map. New Orleans is located on the 30th degree north parallel. So is the Great Pyramid in Egypt. You see, it's no coincidence. In fact, each location is a geodetic marker for celestial activity of the higher order. And also, you know, I think the real reason, New Orleans is an open city. We all know that. I mean, you can't get arrested here, for any kind of gross misuse of a microscope. I know that. Next question here. Have you ever been arrested? Of course not. How could I? Oh, yes. Well, there was one time my assistant Chopsy and I were selling humidity rags without a license. And, of course, I didn't collect the city sales tax. And, well, the judge actually threw the book at me. But I Morgus, defended myself. And, of course, I copped a plea. That's in every law book across America. It's called the Morgusian Compli de Comply. See, the judge, well, he tried to throw 2,000 hours of civic service on me. And I said, Your Honor, that's what I do. I showed him all of my records of civic service. Let me tell you, he was so embarrassed, he threw everything out. In fact, I ended up on the cover of the old Figaro magazine the next day. And by the way, that helped me sell another 1,000 humidity rags. Next question here. What new scientific research are you working on? I'm not going to reveal that. It's confidential. But if you can keep this quiet, I have been thinking about taking over the New Orleans school system. That's right. Imagine, these kids, they need a role model, my friends. That's the trouble. Now, wouldn't it be wonderful if they could all look up to someone like me and say, I want to grow up and be like him? In fact, if I have my way, every kid from the kindergarten all the way up to high school will own a Morgusian handheld wireless computer. It will be programmed into my website, morgus.com. And that's not it. On Fridays, every teacher and the 65,000, I believe, students in this city, we're going to bus them into the Superdome to hear a Morgusian lecture. Can't you think of such a thing? Oh, all right, it's coming. Last question here. Can you give your many friends of science an insight through which they can cherish all times? Oh, I have so many things I'd love to say to my dear friends of science. I'll say this. May you live 100 years, and may I live 100 years, less one day, so that I will never know that friends like you passed away to a higher order.
What a Morgus memory to end on. I'm Bob Walker. Thank you for joining us for this very special presentation of Morgus Presents here on WYES.